And welcome to the Educator Spotlight. I'm Principal Howard, and today I'm happy to have Mr. Joyner, our Teacher of the Month. Mr. Joyner, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. Thank you for having me. It feels kind of weird to be on this end of the camera for once. I spent a whole career on behind the camera, and then it's like, oh, you want to interview me? It's like, oh crap, I gotta be in front of the camera.
So today we're going to take some time to talk about your prior career and just your journey in education. So let's start with the first question, and the first is, what is your current subject? What do you teach?
So I teach TV production. So that's levels 1 through 8. It depends. I have a couple kids that take me multiple times a year. So that's how they can get up to that crazy number. So TV production. It's been pretty fun. This is my basically second career. My first career was in the industry full time, and then coming to education was, a new thing for me. And I'm happy to teach the subject I teach. I don't think I could do a core class, English or math. No. Uh-huh. So I'm happy I at least get the subjects where students, enjoy being there for the most part. It helps.
So you mentioned that you were coming from the industry. You were prior to coming here, you were with the Golf Channel?
Yeah, so they were around about 25 years in Orlando. Mm-hmm. They were owned by Comcast at one point, and then when Comcast bought NBC, they kind of went under the NBC Sports umbrella. And then I started a couple years after that. So I was lucky enough that I had an internship when I was at school at UCF. Mm-hmm. So I was interning at Golf Channel, and by the time I graduated, I was kind of able to work full time, which is nice. It's kind of unheard of in the industry.
So what did you do at the Golf Channel?
I was a camera operator, essentially. I started my way at the bottom as a utility. So basically you take, you're behind the cameras and coiling the cable to make sure they don't trip. So you kind of start at the bottom and worked my way up to a camera operator. That's kind of like on a camera on like a pedestal. So let's say you're doing camera 2, and the director will say, stand by camera 2, start your move in 3, 2, 1, start your move. You zoom in, they take camera 2 on air, you land, and they cut to the singles, stuff like that. Kind of like what we do in our news style stuff. It's just more sports news. And then maybe about a year and a half in there, I started doing a camera called a jib, which is a camera on this long crane, essentially, and you have controls in the back, and it's balance. There's heavy weights in the back, and on the end of the arm you got your camera. And so kind of like that initial shot, except now you're doing like moves from the bottom, and you're floating in and are coming really fast and flying across the stage. So that was pretty cool. It's a hard skill to learn, and I eventually got that. And then over time I did a position called video shading. So you sit in the control room, and all these cameras are coming in live. You're sitting in front of this monitor, and you have this little control box in front of you, and you're basically just making sure the colors match between cameras.
So oftentimes you film in golf tournaments. Did you have a camera on every hole, or how does that work? So
when I did the tournaments, I did the news style stuff. So we would build a stage on like the 18th hole, overlooking the hole, and we would have our announcers come for like a pregame and a postgame show, essentially. So I never really worked the golf tournaments, mm-hmm. like the actual gameplay. I worked doing the pregame shows at the tournaments.
So that provided many opportunities for travel. What are some of the courses that you visited?
I did Winged Foot over in that's in New York. That was a tough one because they called me basically kind of soon out of COVID when stuff was still shut down. Mm-hmm. So, and I wasn't weary to fly, so I flew out there, and we had a day off, so I went to New York City because the golf course was near there, and it was dead. Like going through like Times Square, and there's like 3 people there was so eerie because people weren't traveling at that time, so that was kind of cool. But also at that time, I'm like, okay, well, why am I traveling? I'm sick of this. Yeah, it became too much. That's the biggest thing is it like you end up working crazy hours, and especially when you're on the tournaments, I would work, no joke, 18-hour days. So where the bus would drop me off at the hotel in Stanford at 11 p.m. and then 3 a.m. it would pick me back up. So you'd sleep for a couple hours, and then we were on the course. We'd have like a couple hour downtime but you couldn't leave. So they would, like this unwritten rule, just go hide somewhere and take a nap. So I remember I'm sitting on my golf cart and like scrunched up in a little ball, finding underneath the tree, trying to take a little nap. But it became crazy exhausting. The money was good, but in my mind, I would rather my sanity, honestly.
Not worth it, especially working 18-hour days.
Yeah, exactly. It was like the money was good, but I'd rather have my sanity.
Any opportunities to film some of the major tournaments and see some of the big stars?
So the one at Wingfoot, that was the U.S. Open. That was probably the biggest one I've done if you're a golf fan. Ironically, I don't really watch golf. So I don't. They're like, "Oh, you want to go?" I'm like, "Okay," but then I get there and I research later. We did a lot of Arnold Palmer Invitational because that's here in Orlando, so I'd always go to those. And I did one of the Players as well.
Now, do you play golf, or you just happen to get a job working for the Golf Channel?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like one of those things. Like I'm there for the production. I'm not even paying attention to what they're saying. So another show they do is in the mornings we would shoot a instructional show. They'd have a golf coach come up there and say, "This is how you swing. You put this ball here and pretend to do this," and they would give so many tips. I mean, hundreds, and we're shooting them every week. And I didn't get a single tip on that because I'm focusing on other stuff and not really paying attention. So a lot of the people there did play golf. There was a simulator there, which is really cool, so you could hit full drives, and they had like putting green and stuff. But I wasn't really in the golf. I think I've been twice, ironically.
So what were some of the challenges that you faced in terms of like filming?
Like physically?
Yeah, physically, or any challenges that you
Well, the
faced?
hardest thing initially when I came out from UCF is I was like one of the younger people there. So it's always like you're fighting with the people that they're A, territorial, and B, like don't think you have the chops. So you really have to like work your way up and manage people and also be a cool person to hang around. In production, it's interesting because more so than your actual skill, you have to be like an interesting person and a fun person to be around, someone who want to hang out with, because there's so much downtime in production. They care more about you just being a nice person and have people skills than a lot of times more so your actual skills. So that was I'm decent at that, I think. So that helped me get ahead and move forward. But initially it was like when I was the youngest person there, and they're like, "Oh, this young guy, what's he gonna do?"
Did that translate into education as well? Being a new teacher in education, did you feel like the same climate coming in?
Yeah, and ironically, because like I wasn't like the age of some of the new teachers, like 22, straight out of college.
Yeah.
So I had, I had like 10 years, in the industry. So I'm coming here, and I'm not new, but new as a teacher, but I guess I look kind of young. Yeah. So I remember my first this happened twice. Maybe like within my first year, I think maybe the first month, I'm going out to the football stadium, and a football coach or gym coach comes up to me like, "Hey, what class you're supposed to be in?"
Yeah.
I'm like, my plan period. I don't.
It's funny that you should say that, because I remember I had a similar experience when I started. I think it was my second year of teaching, and I was in the hallway, and there was an assistant principal who happened to be there, and she asked me if I had a hall pass. So I can relate. Now I miss those days, because now they know that everyone calls me sir. Yeah. So like it's nothing like being called sir by a younger teacher, not by a student, but by a teacher. So it's like, oh man, now I really feel old. So I can definitely relate to your experience as a new teacher. What skills that you learned in working for the Golf Channel that translated over to TV production?
I think over to TV production here at high school.
Yeah, TV.
Yeah, I think a lot with the more for the educational aspect, with the like people skills and the management, people management, and class management was something I had to work on. But in terms of like building relationships, that really helped, because in the end, like another thing in the industry, it's all about, they always say it's who you know. But when I was in college, I knew no one, but I met people and grew my own network myself. So I eventually did find people that I knew that we helped each other out. So that kind of helped me out, is the ability to connect with students, especially those that are interested in production. Mm-hmm. And then tech-wise, obviously all the stuff I did at work and at school, and in high school, I took TV production in high school as well at Seminole High School. Mm-hmm. And I learned a lot there, so I kind of built my curriculum based on what I was taught by him.
So having that experience in working in the industry and comparing that with what you learned initially, let's look at even going back to high school. What were, or if there were any, what were the misconceptions that, because oftentimes teachers say, well, when you go in the real world, it's going to be like this. And then you get in the real world and it's not quite what people said to you. So were there any misconceptions that you got from high school and then you actually got in the industry and said, no, this is a little different?
Well, the biggest thing for me is, ironically enough, when I was in high school, I didn't want to do this as a career. And a good amount of my students, my really top students, are also the same way. They're like, I like it, but I don't see myself. There's no money to be made in it. And I had that same, thought. I'm like, it's for fun. It's too wishy-washy of a career. I can't really make money off it. So I'll do an actual career and do this for fun. And then at that point, I wanted to be a doctor. But then I got to chemistry, and that changed very quick because I was not good at chemistry. Stoichiometry, all that.
Chemistry in high
stuff.
school or chemistry
it was
in college?
high school chemistry.
Okay.
But
all right.
by the time I was, I think my major was biology when I first went to UCF. But I think on orientation, do you want to change your major? I'm like, yes, please. Because I applied for biology, but yeah, I changed that. But, I lost my train of thought.
What was it like that the high school, comparing your high school TV production class to the actual experience of being on the...
Yes, my main thing was so over time I realized that you can make a career out of it, and you honestly can make good money, and that's what I do now. I can tell my students hey, if you actually want to do this, it's not that difficult, and I can kind of give them the steps. And that's one thing I like doing in the industry when I was full time is mentoring people and helping them up. And just like people helped me, I help them. I still do the same day when a new guy comes out of UCF and says, hey, can you help me with this? I try to hook him up with some different production assistant jobs and entry-level stuff to kind of help them get started, because that's how I got started. Same thing for my students is after I got in the industry, I learned that it's honestly not that difficult as I thought it was. And it can be a decent career. It's not something crazy, risky.
So if you didn't do golf, what other sport would you have enjoyed filming or doing production?
So I've done a lot of sports in general.
Okay.
So when I was at UCF, I shot the UCF football games, basketball games, stuff like that. And now I work. So one other thing about teaching is nice because I still freelance.
Okay.
So I work for the Magic. This is my second season. I'm a camera operator and a video shader. So just like I was talking about where you have all the videos come in and you color correct them. So it's nice because I have to be there at 4 p.m. on game days, so I can leave here after work, go straight to the Amway Center, park in the garage, walk up there and prep for the show, do the game, leave by 10, be home by 10:30, get enough sleep, then come back to school the next day. So it's nice because I can still juggle both sometimes, and it keeps me still in the industry and still talking to colleagues and stuff like that. So basketball, football. What I do, I don't know if you remember when I first started, I was doing, I pushed my start day back 1 or 2 days because I was doing the Olympics.
Oh,
and that
right,
was for Tokyo Olympics.
Uh-huh.
It was, so I didn't go to Tokyo sadly, but NBC Sports has a stateside production hub over in Stanford. So I was there for I think 2 weeks. That was difficult because that was overnights. So then going from overnights and finally I go back to school with normal hours and I could predict my hours. And so kids ask me all the time when they see my credentials or my press pass, why are you here? And it's and I tell them that I made good money, but the hours are crazy. I had no home life. Now I'm home by 4. I know where I'm working. I know when I'm off. I have the summers off. So I make less money, but it's more, it's a lot better lifestyle than full-time freelance. I'm glad I did it, but this is nice for where I'm at right now.
So you mentioned that you've done multiple sports. Is there a favorite that you like to film?
Basketball is a fun one because
Okay.
it's quick. The games are a lot quicker. Football, it goes on, and all those commercial breaks and stuff. Are you a football fan in general for broadcast?
Yes, football and basketball.
Yeah, that's kind of changed recently because I saw on Facebook all the Taylor Swift stuff.
Yeah,
where they're showing her because I guess her boyfriend is a player. So they have a camera set up in that booth, literally just focused at Taylor Swift. I saw behind the scenes stuff. So they'll cut to her 12 times during a game to get a reaction. But I guess it's all marketing, trying to get trying to get like the Taylor Swift fans interested in football.
So they have a camera specifically set up just for her.
For Taylor Swift, yes. So they have the booth. In the booth are the two people announcers. They slide out. They shoot them. The smaller camera moves out of the way. They have this giant camera, this giant lens that shoots like 200 times away, or about 100 times zoom to Taylor Swift in her press box, her owner's box, cheering. Yeah, and they cut to her crazily. I don't watch it, luckily, but I hear a lot of people complaining about it.
So you mentioned the Orlando Magic. So what do you do actually with the Orlando Magic?
Mostly it's video shading. So I get there and I get the equipment out. Camera operators meet me. They wheel their equipments down to the court. All those signals that coming in during the game, I have a box that I adjust brightness and stuff. So as they're shooting the players, it's a certain brightness level. But when they go up to the crowd during the break, I have to bring the brightness up. It's nice because I tell all my friends who come up, let me know. I can get them on the Jumbotron. But yeah, it's in the camera department essentially, but it's a fun job, and I'm in the control room, and it's a little higher level than a camera operator, so that's nice.
So, and I'm a novice here. So, how do you know what the correct shading is? Or is there someone in your ear saying, "No, it's too dark"? It's too bright?
So you do have a director not yelling at you, but like, hey, he'll say shade on too if it's too dark and you're not paying attention, because you have 7 cameras at once. So sometimes you're boom, 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 boom. And it can get tricky, but so I did get trained for that game for that show by another video shader when I first started, and then over time you get it, and you kind of just know. You do make mistakes sometimes, and I mean it's not as noticeable as like when a camera operator makes mistakes. Directing something live or in a live production environment, it's very stressful. Because the directors are ready one, take one, ready two, take two, ready through with the zoom. It's like an auctioneer. Boom, 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 boom. So
very
it gets
fast-paced.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it gets kind of stressful. And my students, it kind of gets the same way with our news show too, because it's a live show where they're aiming for perfection essentially, but it takes coordinating on 15 different levels.
So the commercials essentially where we're taking a break as viewers, you kind of get a break as well. If
it's on a broadcast. So like if you think of a sports, there's the broadcast of the game. So if it's Magic, could be like, I think, is it Sun Sports or used to be Sun Sports? I think it's Fox Sports now. And that's broadcast operators, a separate crew. And then you got a whole nother crew that's doing the in-house feed. So the stuff you see on the Jumbotron. So I work for the in-house feed, which is technically a Magic employee. And so so I do work during the commercial breaks, no breaks, sadly. Or when the ball's dead. If I'm on the broadcast side, you do get a break during the commercial breaks.
So you are whatever's on the Jumbotron and the Kiss cams.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So they'll have Kiss cam and they have dance cams now and dad dance cams.
Right.
But yeah, it's what you see there is the show I help produce.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So just going back to education, can you think about a teacher who really inspired you when you were in school, and how did they inspire you?
Yeah, so I always had a decent relationship with my teachers. I was always the kid like, have a good weekend or good morning or have a good day. Every day I always sang bye to every one of my teachers. And I realize now like how infrequent that is with my students. But I remember one time it was towards the end of the year and my teacher, I had my grandmother make lasagna and I brought her lunch and we ate together just because she really helped me with my Spanish and stuff. Yeah. And I really liked her. So when I was graduating, I brought her lunch and stuff. But my main inspiration was my TV production teacher. He was a old news guy, a little crotchety at times, but I had a decent relationship with him. And when I graduated, we still stayed in contact. He freelanced a little bit too, so we kind of traded back work, and it was kind of cool. And that's what inspired me to come back to teaching. My whole time freelancing is like, if this is not enough for me, I can always go to teaching. I liked what he did. Mr. Smith was his name, and he's really inspirational to me as a kid, and I learned a lot. And so, I always thought if I needed to, or if I wanted to, I could. And then this job just opened up. I was on set shooting something with some soccer player, and my friend's like, "Hey, there's a job opening at Lake Howell." I'm like, "Oh, really? Interesting." She's like, "Yeah, I don't want it. You should apply." I'm like, "Okay, I'll just apply just to get the interview and just to talk about it. I don't think I'm going to take the job." Mm-hmm. And then, thinking about it more, and I get the interview, and it went really well. And I think Jesse Rose called me the same day, hey, you want this job. I'm like, oh crap. So now I'm like, I remember I'm mowing my lawn. I turn the lawnmower off, and I'm just thinking, I'm like, maybe I could do it. And then I think I did tell him like the day after, like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And it's been good. It's been really nice. But that inspiration from my TV production teacher really kind of inspired me to teach. He sadly he passed away a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. And that probably was the reason I actually came, because he passed away. It kind of hit me kind of hard, and I was still close to him and stuff. And it was kind of a shock. I mean, he was old, but he wasn't sick or anything. So then, about a year after that is when I started teaching.
Well, Mr. Joyner, we're happy that your TV and production teacher inspired you to become a teacher, and we're lucky to have you here on Lake Howell's campus, and thank you for
it's a
joining
great
us
school.
today.
It's a great school to work for. I've always thought to myself, like, if I were to work for any other school, I would go to Seminole, because I went to school there. Mm-hmm. And I think Revis told you, but like they call me this summer. Do you want to come here? Do you want to come here? I'm like, I'm happy. I'm happy where I'm at. I have a good program. We have good kids. I really like Lake Howell. The faculty's really good. My bosses are good. My coworkers are nice. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. This is a fun podcast.
As a plug, we didn't pay you to say that. We want everyone to know that we didn't pay you to say that. So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.